There are cities on this planet where the streetlights still turn on every night. The infrastructure works. The buildings are standing, the roads are mapped. But no one is there, no footsteps, no voices, just wind moving through corridors that were designed for thousands of people who never came or came and left and did not come back. These are not ruins in the ancient sense. They are not Pompeii buried under centuries of ash. Most of them were built within living memory. Some were abandoned within the last 30 years. A few are still being built right now, with no guarantee that anyone will ever actually live in them. What happened to these cities is not one story. It is 5 different stories: war, fire, failed economics, political secrets, and something stranger than all of them about what happens when human ambition builds something that human reality cannot sustain. These are 5 of the largest abandoned cities on Earth. Number 1, Kangbashi District, China. The Chinese government built Kangbashi to hold 300,000 people. They built it across the grasslands of Inner Mongolia during the coal boom of the early 2000s, and they built it thoroughly. The boulevards are wide enough for rush hour traffic that has never materialized. The public squares are sized for crowds that have never gathered. The museums and stadiums and apartment towers are real, fully constructed, and largely empty. When foreign journalists began arriving around 2010 to document what they were already calling a ghost city, the population was estimated at somewhere between 20 and 30,000, roughly 10% of what the infrastructure was designed to accommodate. The streetlights still turn on every night. They illuminate roads that almost nobody drives. The story of Kangbashi is the story of a development model in which construction functions as economic stimulus, regardless of whether what gets built is ever used. The coal revenue generated expectations of population growth. The population growth did not follow the coal revenue at the speed the projections required. A city was built in anticipation of people who arrived too slowly or not at all. The apartments exist, the stadiums exist, the plazas exist. The people the planners drew on the blueprints did not exist, and no one has yet found a reliable way to make them appear. Number 2, Belchite, Spain. 2 armies fought through Belchite in the summer of 1937, street by street, building by building, for 2 consecutive weeks. The battle was part of the Aragon Offensive during the Spanish Civil War, and when it was over, an estimated 6,000 people were dead and the town was rubble. What happened next is what makes Belchite different from every other bombed town in Europe. Francisco Franco, after winning the war, ordered the ruins left exactly as they were: bullet holes in the walls, collapsed church roof, burned interiors, and built a new town a few hundred meters away for the surviving residents. The ruins were preserved deliberately as a monument. Franco's monument, framed as evidence of Republican destruction. After Franco's death and Spain's transition to democracy, the framing changed. The site became a monument to the war's brutality more broadly, but the ruins themselves did not change. They are still there. The skeletal church is still there. The doorways that open onto rooms with no ceiling are still there. Walking through Belchite is the experience of being inside an argument that ended 80 years ago and was never fully resolved. Some ruins feel like the past. Belchite feels like an unfinished sentence. The silence is the most articulate thing about it. Number 3, Centralia, Pennsylvania. The fire beneath Centralia has been burning since 1962. It was likely started by a landfill cleanup that ignited coal seams running under the surface of the town. The fire spread through those seams the way underground fire always does, thoroughly, invisibly, without asking permission from the town above. The town tried to stop it. They pumped water, they dug trenches. Nothing worked because the coal deposit beneath Centralia is deep and wide, and there is no technology that removes it without removing everything above it as well. The fire will continue burning at current estimates for another 250 years. By the 1980s, the consequences had become impossible to live with. Sinkholes opened in backyards without warning. Carbon monoxide seeped from the ground at dangerous concentrations. In 1981, a 12-year-old boy named Todd Dombosk fell into a sinkhole that opened beneath him in his grandmother's yard. A cousin grabbed his hand and pulled him out. The hole was reported to be over 100 feet deep. Pennsylvania condemned the borough in 1992. The buildings were demolished. The population, which had been over 1,000 residents in 1981, is now fewer than 10. The smoke still rises from cracks in the ground. Route 61, the main highway out of town, buckled from the heat and was closed. Someone painted murals on the broken asphalt. The murals are still there. So is the fire. Number 4, ğdam. Azerbaijan. ğdam is not a ghost town in the conventional sense. A ghost town implies buildings standing quietly while nature moves in slowly. ğdam was taken apart. After Armenian forces captured the city during the Nagorno-Karabakh War in 1993, the 40,000 residents who had fled were not permitted to return. What followed over the next several years was the systematic removal of everything usable: bricks pulled from walls, plumbing stripped from buildings, windows taken, roofing removed. The city was disassembled. What remains looks like ruins that were never buildings. The scale of what was once there is visible only into the grid of streets and foundations that stretch across the landscape. The Friday Mosque, built in the 1870s, still stands, its minarets intact above a field of rubble. Journalists photographed it repeatedly because it was the only thing left that provided scale, something recognizable in an expanse that no longer resembled a city at all. Azerbaijan regained control of the ğdam district in 2020. Reconstruction efforts have begun, but a city that was methodically taken apart, building by building, over nearly 30 years does not simply restart. The infrastructure can be rebuilt. The 40,000 people who built lives there and dispersed across a generation cannot be reconstituted by a press release. Number 5. Sanxi Pod City, Taiwan. Construction on a cluster of UFO-shaped vacation pods on the northern coast of Taiwan began in 1978 and stopped 2 years later. The official explanation involved financial difficulties. The local explanation was considerably more interesting: a series of construction deaths, unexplained accidents, and persistent rumors connecting the site to disturbed burial grounds from the Dutch colonial era. The pods were never completed. They sat empty on the coastline for nearly 3 decades, slowly deteriorating, becoming a landmark for urban explorers and photographers drawn to the specific quality of light on a structure that was built to house human beings and never once did. They were demolished in 2008. The land was cleared. The official record of Sanxi Pod City now exists primarily in photographs and in the particular kind of local memory that attaches itself to a place where something went wrong before it had the chance to go right. Whether the cause was financial or something stranger depends on who you ask, and the people most likely to know are no longer available to ask. 5 different endings. What they share is the evidence they left behind: the infrastructure, the streets, the buildings, the objects inside the buildings that nobody came back for. Every abandoned city is ultimately a question about what was assumed, what turned out to be true instead, and who paid the difference. The next part continues this list. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Hit like if this gave you something to think about.